It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
All right, welcome back. This is episode number 16, Beneath the Helmet podcast show. Today, I'm joined with a good friend of mine, a brother from Third Alarm Coaching, firefighter, EMT, paramedic, all-around good guy who's out there making a huge difference in the world. So today, I got a chance to talk to Allan Dignard. Allan's mission is to support and coach other first responders across North America to live healthier lives. As he noted in this great interview, he calls himself a mental health practitioner. Those that have lived through mental health challenges and have persevered. Today in this episode, he shares a lot of tips and tricks and habits that we can build to be a healthier firefighter, from sleep, nutrition, hydration, physical and mental fitness. Allan has a wealth of information, easy to understand, and he's here to help us become the best humans and elite performers we can. As firefighters, aka industrial athletes, this is an episode not to miss. So please enjoy this episode with Allan Dignard, a true mental health, physical health champion. Loads of great content in this episode. So until next time, stay well. All right, everyone, welcome back. I got a very special guest from Canada here, Allan Dignard. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks very much. I appreciate it, brother. I'm glad we're finally able to make this happen.
Yes, it's awesome. We're definitely in the same kind of realm of life of helping other first responders. So tell us a little bit about who Allan is, where you came from, your background, and what brought you to where you are today helping first responders.
Yeah, definitely. I'm 43 years old and I'm divorced and I have two beautiful children of my own. And I also have a stepson with my other significant other that I'm currently with now. I'm a second generation firefighter and I've been a firefighter paramedic. I'm in my 25th year of emergency services. And I currently work with first responders to help them improve their overall health and wellness so that they can function and be the best version of themselves possible. One of the main things that first responders come to me with is wanting to lose weight. That's one of the biggest things. And we can dive into that a little bit later. But I ultimately, just like you, Arjuna, I'm coaching first responders to be the best version of themselves. And I teach health and wellness and my Cole's Notes version. But I guess to follow up with, well, why do I do that? I got to share my journey, throughout the last 25 years of my career. So like I said, I'm a second generation firefighter. My dad was a firefighter when I was growing up and I got into emergency services at the ripe age of 18, still living at home, doing that thing, going to school and stuff. And I was actually in EMS before I became a firefighter. And it wasn't until year 5 that I became a firefighter. And throughout my career, I was a black cloud. You know what I mean? Like I'm a black cloud, like all of the terrible calls that you could think of, like I was there. And, my first call that I ever did at the young age of 18 was a 6-month-old Sid's death.
That was tough at 18.
Yeah. And that was like my first exposure to like real death. Like at that point in my life, like I hadn't even lost any family members. All my grandmas, great grandma are still alive. And so I've never experienced death. And so when I first experienced death, it was with a 6-month-old baby. And, so I didn't really know how to handle that. And I just remember on that call, I know it very well. And I explain more in detail when I'm speaking at conferences or on webinars and stuff like that and sharing my story. But I just remember that I was crying in the back of the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And we were a basic life support ambulance at that time. And I was doing CPR and ventilating this baby. A tear kind of rolled down my face. And I remember wiping that tear and stopping and being like, you can't cry. You can't cry. Like first responders, they don't cry. And I wasn't even in the job long enough to even be around those that are like, you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, or this is what you signed up for, or all of those other cliche things that you hear people say or that people have actually experienced. I was like, first responders don't cry. And I didn't know where that came from, but I just buried those feelings and those emotions. and I went on to the next call. And like I said, I'm a black cloud. I mean, all of those terrible calls that seem to come up. And realistically, I think we're all black clouds, right? Because we all see and experience things that humans generally don't see. And if someone is, I'm a white cloud, I'm like, you haven't been on the job long enough.
Story. True
Right?
story.
True story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But being young, I didn't know how to handle these feelings and these emotions that were coming up. And so what I did is I just adapted and I disassociated myself away from like the people that we are serving as being human beings. And I came up with this analogy, like I'm a mechanic, they're a broken vehicle, I'm there to just fix them. And that was like my coping mechanism and detaching myself from them. And I just kept burying those feelings, thinking that everything was okay. I'm young, I'm in shape, I'm working a really cool career, I'm partying, I'm young, making friends in the fire service. You know how the brotherhood and the sisterhood goes. You're hanging out, you get your really close group of friends and you're hanging out all of the time. And I was working a lot of overtime, you know, shifts, just fell in love with the job. I became the job. And just years and years of that and just working and late shifts, 24-hour shifts, tons of calls, no break, overtime, partying. And then not to mention, I got married and then started a family. And then you start raising kids and those sleepless nights, right? And I was taking care of everybody else but myself. And I didn't realize it at the time until I hit my rock bottom. And my rock bottom, I was thinking of suicide. And, what got me there was depression, anxiety. I started abusing alcohol and emotionally eating food to help me cope with my feelings because they were starting to bubble. They were starting to surface. I could only bury them for so long before that container gets full and wants to just explode. So I started looking for other coping mechanisms and that's what I was doing. And so I was abusing alcohol to numb out and I was abusing food to make me feel better. And my marriage was suffering. I didn't know it at the time, but I became very verbally abusive or insulting towards my wife at the time. And she would bring it to my attention and I would apologize because I didn't realize I was doing it. But yeah, I just got into a very deep and dark hole. And, and then with the stigma around PTSD and mental health and emergency services, I tried to bury it. Like, I'm okay. And everything is good. Don't want to lose my job. Don't want to be seen by my brothers or sisters that I'm not capable of doing my job anymore. And that was in roughly about year 16, 17, before I hit that rock bottom, had a realization that I needed to make a change. Because at this time, I was 60 pounds overweight. I had no energy. Like I said, I was emotionally eating food. Like I would hit McDonald's 4 or 5 times a week. I would hide in my pantry and eat a bag of Doritos until I felt better. And then once I felt better, I would sneak out of the pantry because I was embarrassed. And then the guilt would set in. It'd be like, you stupid idiot, you're trying to lose weight, you fat piece of, what are you doing?
Right.
And I'd go right back into the pantry and emotionally eat my feelings again until I felt better. And I just would repeat that cycle. So I was numbing out with alcohol, emotionally eating my feelings, overweight at my breaking point. Suffered a couple injuries on the job. I hurt my back moving a patient that went into cardiac arrest when we were moving them out of this small, tight bathroom, and ended up herniating a disc in my lower back, L4, and bulging L3 and L5, which caused chronic back pain. And anybody that's suffered with chronic pain, you know how hard that is on your mental health. I'm stubborn. I refused medication because the doctors were pushing medications, opiates, and watching my dad go through a similar experience, got hurt on the job, got whiplash, prescribed medications. He took the medications, completely changed his personality. So there was a little bit of fear there becoming what my dad was. So I had some reservations towards the medication. So I kind of refused it. My pride was in the way. My ego was in the way. And I just dealt with it with food and alcohol. So I was broken mentally and physically. So yeah, I just wanted to end it all. I just wanted to end it all. And the only way that I knew how to stop the pain and the suffering was to just end my life. And that's a very dark place to be for anybody that's been there. But thankfully, the universe had other plans for me and has taken me to where I am today. And one morning, I was laying at home on the couch with my foot elevated because I had broken my leg. And that just became a habit. I would elevate my foot. And I was drunk. And my daughter was at home at the time. She was too young to be in school. And I'm like parenting her. And she's running around. And I just remember laying on the couch and she ran by me. She's got, at that time, long blonde hair. And she ran by me so innocently. And it was almost like I had an out of body experience. It was like I could see myself laying on the couch and watching her run by. And it was like, dude, what are you doing? Enough is enough. And so I looked at my drink, and I was a very big whiskey drinker. And it got to the point where I would drink it pretty much on the rocks, little splash of Coke, because, I'm watching my weight. And I put that drink down, and I've never picked up that drink again. Yeah. And, but I do what everybody does at that time. I was like, I'm fat, I'm overweight, I got to start working out. And so I sobered up. I went down into my basement and I started working out. And something just told me to keep going. Like my leg hurt, it swelled up. I was in a lot of pain. My back hurt because it had atrophied and I hadn't been taking care of myself. But something just was like, Allan, keep going. Like you're on the right path. All of this pain and adversity that you're going through, even though what you're doing is good for you, will pay off. So keep going. And I'm no stranger to physical fitness. I grew up, I played hockey, played football, a fire fit competitor, very active. But throughout the job, having kids, getting married, injuries, I just slowly lost all of that wellness. And becoming the job, working 24-hour shifts, working overtime, working that ambulance, getting run, I just was exhausted. So I stopped golfing, I stopped fishing, I stopped doing all of the things that contributed to my wellness and to my self-care. And before I was educated like I am now, I was like, you got to work out, right? So I did that, but that only took me so far. Yeah, I lost some weight and started to feel better. My body composition started changing, but I still wasn't eating properly. I still hadn't dealt with any of the emotional eating issues. I stopped the alcohol, so that was good. But I was still depressed. I was still suffering with anxiety. And so I was like, okay, speaking with a friend, you got to fix your food. Like health starts with the proper food. I was like, oh, whatever. Okay. But so I just watching what I was eating and wow, what a difference, right? Getting rid of the processed foods and the high sugary type foods and putting in more vegetables and lean meats, and things just started improving. I started sleeping better. My workouts got better. I stopped having those mood swings. My depression lessened a little bit. My anxiety lessened a little bit. I was able to start drinking water. I hated water. Really, I hated it. But I started off, I was like, I got to drink my minimum water intake and I will put Mio in it, or I'll do whatever I need to do to start to build that habit. And I started drinking my water and just my health just started to really improve, my physical health. But I still had to deal with my mental health. And so that's where I started to really focus on the deeper side, right? The mental health side of the game, which is very scary and is very vulnerable and very raw, but it had to be done. There was a lot of habits, behaviors, beliefs that were pretty deep rooted, admitting that I was depressed and that the things that I saw in my career had bothered me. The things that I experienced in my personal life, even as young as a child, has bothered me. And I never, ever really dealt with that. So that sent me on a journey of personal development and really learning about who Allan is, who I've become, and who I want to create. Yeah. So in a nutshell, to make a long story short, that's why I do what I do now. because once I learned like that taking care of your health and how beneficial it has been to me as a first responder in my personal life and my professional life was literally life changing. And so with the stigma that's in our career and just how unhealthy our industry is, up until recently, like cardiovascular disease was the number one killer of firefighters in the line of duty. And now cancer has surpassed that. But our industry is just mentally and physically unhealthy. And that's not like a personal attack. It's just reality. Society, if you look at it overall, is very unhealthy, mentally and physically.
Even though firefighters are looked upon as being elite athletes that are physically fit, mentally fit, basically superhumans, right?
Exactly. And you have that like the firefighter calendar, if you will, right?
Mhm.
But if you really look at it, it's not like that at all, right? Like the majority of people aren't like the people that are in those calendars, right? Because we're human and we're not bodybuilders and stuff like that. But we're realistically just mentally and physically unhealthy. And I think it's because as first responders, we're busy taking care of everybody else. And then you throw in the fact that a lot of us are parents. So we're taking care of our children and our spouses, and we're serving everybody else but ourselves. And that's one of the biggest things that I hear from people that want to work with me is like they've just lost themselves and they've lost their ability to take care of themselves. And that happened to me too, right? But along my journey, I started sharing on social media that, and it was like a form of accountability. Like I have to be accountable because if I don't, we know how that goes. If we're not accountable to nobody, it's easy to just stop doing what we're doing. And that's why coaching is super important and powerful, is because it helps people be accountable. But so I utilized social media, kind of sharing that I was like working out and losing weight and improving my health. I didn't say anything about my mental health at first because I was still embarrassed and I was ashamed and stuff like that. But throughout my journey of personal development and growth and stuff like that, I started to open up more and more about it and share about how I was feeling and what I was going through. And more and more first responders started reaching out. Hey, like I want to lose weight. I want to improve. I feel like you felt. And so I just started helping. And I seen that there was a need for the service. And I was like, I know how I feel now and where I was. And I never want any first responder to feel the way that I did. And that was lost, hopeless, unhealthy, no motivation, no energy. I felt like giving up and I felt alone. So I never wanted anybody to feel like that. So I just started coaching people and helping them and sharing just what I was doing. And as more and more first responders started getting healthier and taking care of their weight and more people started reaching out, I started noticing like patterns, right? The pattern of the first responder not taking care of themselves, not eating right, emotionally eating, drinking, some form of addiction, just lost, uncomfortable, low self-esteem, low confidence, and just essentially lost themselves along the way, either in their job or in their life. And so I was like, people are wanting to pay me now for these services. And I was like, I don't want to charge. I'm like, I'm just a guy trying to help out. I'm just a fellow first responder trying to help another first responder. Because more and more people just kept coming to me. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to start charging people, then I have to get some sort of education. And at that point, like I wasn't a nutritionist. I wasn't a specialist in fitness nutrition. I wasn't a personal trainer. I had nothing to do with health and wellness. I was just a guy. So I was teaching through my lived experience. And then now couple that with the education that I have on change psychology and trauma and nutrition and all that other stuff, coupled with real life experience, like it's a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And when I'm working with first responders, like the change that we make is amazing. You know, I've worked with first responders, lost like 70 pounds come off of CPAP, got rid of all of their medications, right? Completely changed their life, saved their marriage, improved their career, gotten promotions, all because we went back to the basics of taking care of ourselves.
I'm curious, is there a certain time in someone's career where they're starting to feel like this? Or you notice a trend like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years into the job or?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody because we all come in with our own life experience before we come in with the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that is a factor. But usually, like, I'm not coaching people that are 23 or 24 and a year or two on the job.
Right.
Right? I'm coaching people that are year 15, 20, 25, 30, have had kids. Their kids are maybe grown up. Maybe they're divorced, have really had some life adversity, some life challenges, career challenges, bad calls. Like, those are the people, and
Mhm.
nobody's exempt from trauma and the hardships and everything else like that. But I think, like, once you're on the job for a certain amount of time, if you're not careful, if you're not proactive with your mental and your physical health, it sneaks up on you without you even noticing it. And then you just find yourself in this dark hole.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right. But I think it's first responders that have been on the job a while, have established families, been through some hardships, and just lost themselves along the way. Somebody that's 21, 22, just getting in the job, like, they're still like full of piss and vinegar and they don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
A lot of times, like, people always ask me, if it's speaking at a conference or whatever, they'll come up to me, they're like, we got to teach this in the school system. That's where it's got to start. I'm like, I don't disagree with you. But I said, I put myself back when I was 18 years old in school. If some first responder would have came and been like, you have to take care of your mental and your physical health in order to survive this career, have the best outcome on when you want to retire, I would have given the two fists up and been like,
Mhm.
whatever, I'm here to save lives, drive fast, give medication and sleep. I'm here to be that rock star firefighter or whatever.
Invincible.
Yeah, invisible. And it's funny because, like, in my presentation, I have a picture of a first responder staring at himself in the mirror. And in the mirror, he looks like this big old jacked up Superman. But then, like, in reality, he's just like a normal human being, right? Like a normal just dude. And that's the thing, is I was that Superman. I thought I was invincible, right? Like, just, I'm young, I'm healthy. Doesn't matter what I eat. Who cares if I'm sleeping, I'm partying, whatever.
Yep.
But all of those habits and behaviors I established were not in my favor come my rock bottom.
Saying that, I'm curious to what would you say to an 18-year-old who wants to join the fire service now? So saying that for yourself, you wouldn't have accepted that information or knowledge back then. But
Yeah.
do you have tools and techniques that you would be able to share now with an 18-year-old that might resonate with them?
Yeah, definitely, man. And I have spoken to organizations where they're bringing in recruit classes, whether it's firefighters, fish and wildlife officers, just service members coming into the industry at such a young age. And I share my story, and I share just by sharing my story is a reality. And I think, because back when I went to school, like, this didn't happen. Like,
Right.
mental health wasn't talked about. It was very taboo. And look, did people struggle? Yes, but nobody said anything. So if someone would have came to me and maybe chatted with me and told me their life experience and like where you could end up, it might have been a little bit of a different story than if I would have been like, make sure you're eating healthy, drinking your water, and getting your sleep. Okay, whatever. And
Right over their head.
yeah, because, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And so I realistically think that it's better received when you've experienced it yourself. Like,
Okay.
you can go now after being a chief and in the industry for so long and experiencing burnout. When you go speak, you speak from a whole different level than if you were just some guy who never experienced burnout, but went and just spoke about burnout.
Yeah. 100%.
Does that make sense?
That's what's resonated with my book, Burnt Around the Edges, is there's loads of books about burnout and stress out there on the market. Loads of them, tons of them. But there's very little that actually experienced it themselves especially in emergency services. So that was the kind of the change in that book was you can go to the bookstore and there's a whole stack of self-help books about burnout and stress. But when it's a real lived experience, totally different game.
Exactly. Right. And that's the thing. I mean, because what I consider you and I is a practitioner. We're not just like a theorist who like, yeah, I know a little bit about this and this is what happens and blah, 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 blah. We all know those presentations that happen at like first responder conferences, how they just fall on deaf ears because it's just, I'm not resonating with this.
Yep.
And so it's good information, but it falls on deaf ears because like you're a theorist, right? You're not a practitioner.
Yep.
And a practitioner is someone who's lived through it, who's experienced it, who's gone through those trials and tribulations, has come out the other side and can now teach. And so that's where I think like you and I and many others in the industry is we're practitioners.
Yeah. And I truly believe it's a blessing. Like everything that I went through, and I'm sure I can't speak for you, but I'm assuming that everything you went through brought you to where you are today and has made you this very special person for emergency services.
For sure. And that's the thing. Not only do I bring like the knowledge with it, yeah, the knowledge around wanting to eat healthy and, you know, what protein does in your body, that's great. But to understand like why we need to be healthy and the mental health around it and having the lived experience, I understand. Like even today, we had a coaching call today before this webinar or this podcast interview. And we were talking about just being present. And I mean, in mind and body. Right. And how the body keeps the score and how if we don't actually deal with that, like it's going to come back and creep up on us. Right. And we did an exercise where I had them kind of tune in a little bit and it was amazing what comes up, right? What comes up for people when you can have someone that, yeah, like coming off of CPAP and losing 70 pounds, that's great. But it's what it took to get there. It's the person that they've developed and that they've become. That's the best part of it. That's what I love about coaching, right? Is watching them create themselves. Right? Like I've taken all of my shit, all of the adversity, all of the depression, anxiety, addiction, the failed marriage, all of that stuff, the calls, the shifts, all of that stuff, my injuries, suicidal tendencies, and I turned it into a strength. And instead of having it like bury me, I'm using it as fuel to fuel me. Right. And it fuels my mission. It fuels the first responders that I work with because they learn that what's actually happened, we'll say to them in life, actually wasn't happening to them. It was actually happening for them. It was an opportunity. Right. So I've taken my weaknesses and turned them into my strengths. Because now, like, I don't have back pain. I'm not 60 pounds overweight. I'm very emotionally stable. I have really good self-care habits, behaviors, and routines. I'm in the best shape of my life at 43 compared to when I was 23. Right. And I wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone through all of that adversity. Right. So when I don't feel like working out, guess what? I remind myself like, hey, I wanted to kill myself. I'm grateful to be alive and to be healthy that I can work out because a lot of people aren't.
Before we dive into some self-care kind of tips and strategies, I'm curious, if you didn't do anything, what would have happened to Allan?
I would have completely imploded. I bet you I would have probably killed myself.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Eh? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a very, like, that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? Like I was my darkest point. And like I said, I'm a big believer in the universe. And I think like when I talk about that out of body experience, like that was me needing to be where I needed to be in order to move forward. Right. And so I have a saying that says, sometimes you get what you need before you get what you want. And I needed that depression. I needed that anxiety. I needed to be overweight and fat. I needed to hate the image staring back at me. I needed to feel my uniforms being tight. I needed the doctor to tell me, hey, Allan, you have a back of an 80-year-old man. Maybe you should look at a different career. I needed the failed marriage. I needed all of that stuff, all of that adversity to become what the universe needed me to become to serve the people that I need to serve. And I can't serve them authentically. And this is where that practitioner comes in, right? Because I always hate to bring it back to working out, but if you go to a gym and you have an opportunity to have two trainers, this trainer has never been overweight, has never had any adversity. They're 23 years old. They're jacked up. They're really super muscular. They both can teach you how to lose weight and get stronger and improve your health. But this personal trainer kind of resembles you. Yeah. Hey, I was once 23 years old. I was overweight. This is how I overcame it. Yes, I have kids. This is how I manage it. Who are you going to pick?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll get a pick.
Yeah. Great visual.
Right. So so I bring this to my coaching practice is who would have I wanted in my corner when I was in my lowest, darkest moment?
Love it.
Allan didn't exist like that. Like Coach Allan didn't exist. Maybe they did, but I didn't know where to find them. I was alone. And so when I work with people, I never want them to feel alone. I want them to feel understood. I want them to know that the feelings that they're feeling are perfectly normal. Right.
Yep.
But if we want to get healthy, we must take care of ourselves. And if we want to continue to serve others, i.e. our family, and those we serve in our community, we must, not if, we must take care of ourselves first. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. And being a parent and being a first responder is a career of service. It's pouring into others when they need you. You can only give what you got. If your cup is empty, like mine was, depression, anxiety, addiction, obesity, hate, anger, jealousy, resentment, guess what I'm giving to my kids? Guess what I'm giving to the people I'm serving? I'm giving them that.
Yeah. And just think how better our service can be to the public when we are at our optimal health and condition. So it's a win-win. Take care of ourselves. We're going to be healthier, but we're also going to excel at customer service, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's what it's all about, right? I'm a better parent now, right? You look at back then, I was short with my kids. I was disciplining them. I was spanking them. Like I was very short and angry, verbally abusive with my spouse. Like all of that stuff was happening because that's what I had in my cup. I completely lost myself to the job. I completely stopped taking care of my health and my wellness. I got into this deep, dark hole and didn't know how to get out. And that's what I was giving.
So somebody who wants to start today, start tomorrow, what would be your recommendation for taking that first step?
Yeah, that first step I think, is just admitting that you need help and that it's okay to ask for help. I know as first responders, it's scary to ask for help. We're the helpers, right? Our ego gets in the way sometimes. That, no, I can do this on my own. If you could, you would have. So it's okay to have someone in your corner helping you. Michael Jordan didn't become Michael Jordan without a coach. Wayne Gretzky didn't become Wayne Gretzky without a coach. I'm sure there were days where Wayne was like, I got to go to the rink again. I got to practice how many passes again? I got to work out again. I'm Wayne Gretzky. I don't need to do they get there because they have someone there that's going to hold them accountable and help them become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, that could be a coach or it could be just a peer friend, right? It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It could be somebody that, like it could be someone like professionally, like a coach. It could just be a mentor. It could be like a coworker. If it's somebody that has what you want, go to that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Whoever you gravitate to that kind of resembles your lifestyle and maybe who you want to be like, or who resembles you currently. So I imagine doing this on a journey with 2 or 3 people who are almost in the same place as you would be pretty powerful to, firefighters are competitive people, and having a little bit of competitive edge where a small group is working to get healthier, I think that could be pretty powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think too, as well, you have to have you have to develop discipline as well. Like you have to become self-reliant as well, because everybody just has their own life going on. right? And a lot of people, they'll choose somebody like, like my best friend's we're going to start working out on Monday and it's all good. And then, but life is going off. So now they're not showing up. And now it's just, so now I don't show up and they don't have that discipline to keep showing up for themselves. And I think that's why it's important to like make this journey about taking care of your health, because then you shouldn't need to give yourself any time off.
Built
You know?
into your lifestyle.
Yeah, it becomes part of your lifestyle. It wasn't always that way for me. And that's where I needed help and I needed a coach, but something inside me was like, you got to just keep going. And I mean, and I found myself along the way and completely recreated myself. Now it's like a decade later and I have such deep rooted habits and behaviors. I've changed my belief. I've changed my identity. I've recreated who I am through this journey. It's important to know why you want to do this. Because the days that I don't want to meal prep and the days that I want to just push the easy button and order takeout, I just remember why I started this. I remember how crappy I felt. And so I do those hard things.
I know in coaching for like habit building, it's always useful to have symbols or something around your house to remind you. Do you have things like that around the house?
Oh, for sure. And for example, like when I don't feel like working out, which is like 99% of the time, right? I just psychologically, it's easier to stay on the couch and stay comfortable. That's what our body wants. Our brain wants us to feel safe and cozy and comfortable. And I know that working out sucks and it puts my heart rate through the roof and I'm breathing like crazy and I'm sweating and it hurts. And I'm trying to tell myself, no, just stay on the couch. All right. So my brain, I'm always having an argument with my brain all of the time because it's going to want to keep me safe, right? It's going to want to keep me comfortable. So my body knows though, that the moment that I get up off the couch and I go to the kitchen and I start making my workout drink and I have my pre-workout and I go upstairs to my bedroom and I get changed, that's my habit, right? My body goes, okay, he's doing this. Oh, it's go time. It's coming. This is coming. Prepare for it. Right. But that's the habit. I created those habits. Get up off the couch, go make my drink, go get changed. Right. So now my body knows, my body is conditioned and programmed that when I do this, it's go time.
Nice. Nice.
When I don't feel like it, I'm just like, get up off the couch, Al. And then I do those habits. The rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. You mentioned water before, something you hated, and I'm sure now incorporate into your day-to-day life. Everyone talks about water, super important. But why is water so important for us?
Yeah. Like the majority of our body is made up of water, right? Our brain needs water. Our muscles need water, right? Like water is the drink of life. There was one magic pill on this earth. It's water, right? You talk about depression and stuff like that. Like even a 1% decrease, like a 1% dehydration in our body causes internal stress, causes stress on the brain. Things don't fire properly. Neurons don't fire properly. Muscles don't fire properly. Like it creates a state of stress, right? So being properly hydrated allows our body to be in a state called homeostasis. And the body's always searching for homeostasis. And if it's not in a state of homeostasis, it's in a state of stress. As first responders, we don't need more stress, right? So this is one small thing that we could do that has the biggest impact on our health, right? Yeah, drink up. And so it's great for weight loss. It's great for performance in the gym. It's great for performance on the fire ground. Like it's great. And it's the magic pill. Like your plants are out dying in the yard. What brings them back to life?
Yeah, exactly.
You go water them.
Yeah.
Our bodies are the same way. As first responders who are fighting depression and anxiety and PTSD and all of this stuff, if we give ourselves a fighting chance by establishing some simple self-care habits like water, we're putting ourselves at a bigger advantage versus allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Now, they've proven like dehydration has a direct impact on increasing the chances of depression, right? So do yourself a favor, drink your water.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I thought I used to drink a lot of water, but that was some of my main reasons for my fainting spells was dehydration. And I always thought that I drank enough, and man, oh man, not even close. So
Yeah. Not even,
basically, I drink all day.
me too. And it's funny because like people are like, I drink a lot of water. I'm like, how much do you drink? I don't know. Like 6 cups? 6 cups of what?
Yeah.
Six. Okay. And they're really, they're blown away when they'll give you the rule of thumb, right? Like the rule of thumb, because this is easy for everyone to remember, but is how much water should I drink? The rule of thumb is half your body weight in ounces, right? So if I'm 200 pounds, I need a minimum, not maximum, minimum 100 ounces of water, right? And people are like, what do you mean 3.5 liters of water? There's no way I can do that. Yeah, but you drink 2 liters of coffee in a day. So what are you telling me you can't drink 3 liters of
And
water?
a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah, and a 6-pack of beer or a 2 liter of Coke, right? So, it seems like a lot. And they're like, yeah, but then I gotta go pee all of the time. So your body will adjust,
Mm.
right? You're going and peeing all of the time because you're dehydrated. So your body's in this state of holding on to water for survival because it needs it. And if you're not giving it, guess what happens? Your body's, I'm going to survive. So you're not giving it to me. So any bit that I have, I'm going to hold on to.
So would that
Right.
be water retention? So when
Yeah.
people have issues with water retention, okay.
Yeah. So their body's going to hold on to water. And like a lot of people, when they first start wanting to get healthy, for example, and you start fixing their water, and within the first like week or so, they're like, oh, wow, I lost 5 pounds. Just lost 5 pounds of water, essentially. Or a good portion of it is going to be water that you've peed out, right? And then once we start to get things into balance, you start working on other stuff to start losing fat. But what we do is we lose water. Essentially what we're losing in the first bit. But yeah, water's super powerful. Like it is the magic pill.
Yeah. And it's so simple, so available, and it's free, close to free.
Yeah.
Yep.
Drink minimum 4 liters of water a day. And my cue for that is I have a couple of big water jugs, but I still follow default to it. But I have a 4 liter jug that has timestamps on it. And it starts at 7 a.m. and goes to 7 p.m. If it's like a day or I'm at work or something like that, and it's noon and my water bottle's still full, that's a direct reminder of, holy man, I'm behind on my water. And like, that's a very good visual because a lot of people think they drink a lot of water, like you said, or I think I'm eating healthy, but unless you're tracking it, you really have no idea.
Yeah, it's a great way to track it, isn't it? Have some sort of water bottle that contains the full amount that you need for that day
Yeah.
as a visual instead of just having a glass around. You're like, oh, I might have had a glass or 2 or 3 or whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So I have a big water bottle that I fill this with, right? Carry the big water bottle in the ambulance, carry it in the fire station. It's on the fire truck. It's everywhere with me.
Mhm.
My kids just, they're like, they have you got your water bottle? Yeah. Like they just know, right? And my kids have adopted this self-care routine because that's what they've lived now for a good portion of their life. But they know, like my kids know how much water they drink and they know how much they need to drink. And like, it may sound funny, but like my 12-year-old, 14-year-old and 15-year-old know how much water they drink.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So for people who are listening right now, they're like, yeah, this is me. I need to change my life. I'm going to find a partner, a coach or a buddy of mine to go and start working out a little bit more. I'm going to start drinking water, making sure I keep up on that. What do you think's next on the radar for a small win?
Ultimately, I think you can work out till the cows come home, but true health starts from the inside. And we already talked about water. Another important, powerful thing that we need to really focus on is the type of food that we eat. right? Working out can come later on, and working out, a good majority of my clients don't even work out. The gentleman that I talked about that lost 70 pounds, came off CPAP and all of his medications, cured his GERD and all that other stuff, didn't work out once. Purely nutrition, hydration, stress management. So when
in that order, would you say?
yeah, it starts with, we all got to eat. We might as well eat good food, right? And you can't manage your stress if you still have other stressors. And a lot of people, when we talk about like, well, I want to manage my stress, they're talking about managing external stressors, right? We got to control the internal ones first, right? So if we can control the stressor of being dehydrated, right? That's something we have direct control over. I can choose whether I'm hydrated or dehydrated, right? Based on the amount of water that I drink. So I have direct control over that. The same thing with our nutrition, right? I have direct control over that. The amount of people that come to me that are overweight and have no energy and no motivation and have tried every fad diet out there that they can think of, just all of this stupid stuff. When we take it back and we keep it super simple and we focus on the basics of proper nutrition, and this is where, as a nutritionist, I give them a specific plan for them based on what their goals are. But essentially, in a nutshell, it's about eliminating the amount of processed foods that we have and the amount of high sugary type foods that we have, and incorporating whole, healthy, natural foods and balance. Like none of this, like cutting carbs crap and all this other fad stuff that's out there. Yes, there's a specific time and a place to when you're wanting to maybe watch your carbohydrate intake, but like carbohydrates is the main fuel source for the brain and the body. And if you don't counteract that properly, then you're left with food cravings, overeating, like low blood sugar, and all those other things that kind of come with that, right? So we have to just focus on whole, healthy, natural foods. You have specific goals and you want to achieve a specific thing, that's when you hire somebody like me. But if you're not at that level, that's cool. Just minimize the processed foods and the high sugary type foods and work on whole, healthy, natural foods. And this is why. Processed foods, chemically compromised, right? You look at a food label, how many of those words can you actually pronounce on there? We want to look at foods that don't have labels. And so when you go to the grocery store, you don't see a label on a cucumber or a pepper or some romaine salad or tomatoes. You don't see labels on there, right? You go grab some chicken breast from the meats aisle, you don't see labels on it, right? So the more foods that we can incorporate without labels, the better. And because when we introduce things like processed foods, which means that it's been processed in a plant and either chemically made or had things chemically added to it, our body doesn't know what to do with it, right? And it becomes a stressor. So when the body doesn't recognize something, it's gonna be like, this is a stressor, okay? And when it doesn't know what to do with it and it doesn't know how to process it or break it down, or the liver doesn't know what to do with it, it's going to be like, I don't know what to do with this thing. So just store it for later. Maybe we'll need this later. So it's going to store it. It's going to store it in our fat cells. Same thing with sugar. And as good as sugar is, right? That everybody loves a good donut. Sugar is a drug. And the food industry has really gotten like it down to a science on chemically compromising food to stimulate the dopamine receptors in our brain so that when we eat said food, we feel good. So when you're emotionally stressed out, you're having a bad call, life is really pounding you down, nobody's coming to me saying, I'm really craving a cucumber right now when shit's hitting the fan. Like, no, I want the burgers and the fries and the donuts and this and that, right? Because they don't want that food. They want what the food does for them. And that food makes them feel better. So all they want is just a moment to just, right? And as first responders who are super stressed out and overwhelmed, and just people in life in general, myself included back then, is I was emotionally eating the food because it made me feel better. I had no idea it was causing dopamine receptors in my brain firing, making me feel good and No wonder I needed it more and more. It was like heroin. I needed more and more to get that same reaction. So no wonder I was eating McDonald's 4, 5, 6 times a week. Right? When I felt crappy and felt fat and didn't like who I was, well, I was back in eating Doritos. Why? Because it made me feel good. Right? So we have to start to eliminate that. And then sugar is another stressor. We get high glucose, right? And then we get the pancreas is like, hey, we're out of homeostasis. Secrete insulin to bring back down the glucose to a normal level. It's too high, right? As long as we have insulin running around in the bloodstream, right? Fat loss stops. And when we have high sugar, high insulin, high sugar, high insulin, we get this. We get the roller coaster ride. Right. And this is where people are like, well, we got to cut out carbohydrates, get rid of them. Okay, guess what? Now your sugar levels are completely dropped. It's your body's main fuel source. So naturally, you're going to be thinking about carbohydrates all of the time. If I was to say, Arjuna, no more donuts, ever, you're going to be like, I really need a donut. I can't stop thinking about it.
Yep.
Because your body is like in survival. We're trained. It's in our DNA. You go back to when we were hunters and gatherers. We're looking for quick, immediate fuel sources. Back then, what were those? Berries, which is a form of carbohydrate. Nowadays, we have chemically compromised carbohydrates, which people love, but it's the carbohydrate choice. Because the end result of a complex carb and a simple carb, the end result is always sugar, always. And it's how quickly it gets there. Like complex carbs have fiber, which slows the digestion process and prevents that sugar spike. So instead of getting the ups and downs, we're going to get a steady state. We're going to get a steady burn, right? Less insulin in the bloodstream, less mood swings, better fat loss, right? More stable energy, all of those things. So whole foods, right? And allow yourself the odd donut or the odd McDonald's, right? There's got to be balance. But 80, 90% of the time, eat good food because it's a form of self-care.
I agree.
Yeah.
Once again, it's so simple. So simple. Just like water. It's a bit more expensive than water, but it is still very right. It's a simple concept. It's just that habit that we have of one, like you said, wanting that quick fix.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We're chasing that dopamine, right? Like we're chasing that dopamine response. And he said something you're like about with regards to cost, the price. And this is one of the things that people are like, oh, eating healthy is so expensive. And I'm like, really, it's not. Right? If you were to look at your bank account and you were to go through and add up all of the money, if you got your coffee routine and you get a donut every, this, and you got this, and you got this, and you got this, if you start to slowly eliminate all of that, it's going to balance out. But we look at it, people always look at it from a price perspective. And I want you to look at it from a cost perspective. What's costing you?
It's an investment.
It's costing you your health, right? Like eating healthy foods, the majority of the time is good for you. It's an investment in your health. Because if you look at it from a price perspective, you're going to pay for it either way. I would rather pay for it in money than pay for it in health, right? People have diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, having cardiac events, having heart attacks, having strokes. What's that costing you? So you look at it from a price versus cost. Price is what you pay, the money. The cost is like the real thing we need to look at.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ironic when you talk about this, kind of just painted a picture that I didn't really imagine before. But since my burnout, I've cleaned up my act of alcohol consumption, water intake's improved, nutrition's improved. I'm still overweight from where I want to be, but I feel like I have so much more energy and so much more attention, such a clearer head, just doing those minor things, big adjustments in my life. But just that hydration, nutrition, a little bit of exercise. I'm definitely not where I want to be, but all those components are making me so much healthier than I was without doing any exercise.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
exactly. Right. And that's the thing. And I'll say this too, and I'm super proud of you with regards to that. Right. And when we look at it, people think exercise is the answer. Right? I got to exercise. And I said that I thought that was the answer too. But the thing is like as good as working out is, it's a stressor, right? It's a stress response, right? You're working hard, your heart rate's through the roof, you're breathing like crazy, you're putting your body under a great deal of stress, causing tearing in the muscle fibers, right? You're putting your body into a state of stress. Even though you're doing it, the body's still like, this is stress. Now, if you are not feeding your body properly and you're not hydrated properly, you're causing more stress. Our body can't lose weight when it's in a state of stress. It's in a state of survival. So it's not going to let go of the fat because fat is stored energy. So it's not going to let go of it. So it's only when we marry everything together, right? When we start to make sure that we have the proper hydration, the proper nutrition. And if we're wanting to work out, then we need to make sure we definitely have the proper nutrition to offset that. Our sleep, all of those other things, when we can start to manage those internal stressors in the body, and the body goes, okay, I'm working my way to a state of homeostasis, then it's going to let the fat go, right? Because our bodies are based on adaptation. It's going to adapt to what we do to it. So if we've constantly like not fed our body properly, it's going to adapt, right? And if we don't feed, like say we just don't eat a lot because we think, oh, I got to cut calories to lose weight. Yes, that's true, but it's not like what you think it is. But when we do that and we're not eating properly, we're going to slow our metabolism down, right? And then our body's going to adapt to that, right? When we're not hydrated properly, our body's going to go, okay, this is our new norm. So adapt to that. Right. And then all of a sudden we're like, I'm going to work out. Your body's like, whoa, this is stressful. What are you doing? And then you're not feeding it properly. You're not hydrated properly. You're not managing these other stressors. Working out, if not done at the right time, can actually be working against you versus for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think most people would be like, what did you just say?
Yeah. Yeah. So go back and watch that again.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, like people just have a hard time. It's like, you don't need to work out to lose weight. If we don't do things properly, it's actually going to work against you. Ever heard of a plateau?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bodies, things aren't ideal. Stop. We've adapted to what we're doing. This is it. We're good.
This is safe.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why when you work with a professional that has an understanding like I do, coupled with the life experience, the practitioner, we can marry them together. Right? Yeah. Like you want to lose weight? Like we can do that. But let's start by feeding yourself properly. And it's amazing what happens. Like you said, more energy, sleeping better, like feeling good. Like it's hard to explain to someone that has never experienced it because like you're doing it from a wellness perspective. You're incorporating it as these are my self-care routines that I know have an impact on my health and wellness. And they are. You're like, man, this is awesome.
Yep.
And it's that simple.
Well, and it's been a wealth of information over the last hour. I really appreciate all the nuggets you've shared. What's one last thing you'd like to have our listeners kind of take away from your knowledge, your background to make them a healthier, happier, more elite firefighter?
Yeah, you know what? I think if I could just say anything to sum all of this up is you have to take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That's to me, that's the definition of being fit. Right? A lot of people might relate it to like, well, I'm fit because I go to the gym. Like I said, I only got so far with the gym, but I was still depressed. Right? Like we have to have some really good basic self-care routines. So if we're eating good, we're monitoring our hydration, we're really working on managing our sleep, right? Those three key pillars will go a long way. And then that stress management, comes, because we're going to take away or manage a lot better the internal stressors, which will allow us to start to manage the external stressors. Right? And you're going to start to see less overwhelm, less stress, less anxiety, less depression. Right? Because if you're already stressed out and maxed out, and then your boss is like, "Hey, you got a late call." Oh, you know what I mean? That just puts you over. But if you can manage all of those internal stressors, the external ones are easily managed.
Yeah. Like a classic definition of resilience.
Exactly. And that's
Yep.
one of the things that I teach all of the time is like, when we talk about true, like being fit, it's being mentally and physically resilient. And the way that we build resilience is by taking care of yourself.
And unfortunately, the culture in the fire service is a very service oriented where the customer always comes first. And I truly believe in that. But I think for us to become that person who can put the customer first, we have to off duty, most of the time off duty, but as well as on duty, we have to take our number one. Our first you responders, what I call it, is like we're number one. And we can't be that servant leader or that top notch firefighter for that Mrs. Smith down the road if we're not taking care of ourselves.
That's right. And there's a reason that they want you to put your oxygen mask on yourself first on a plane, because if you don't help yourself first, you can't help anybody else. And that's the true meaning behind it, right? Like when we go to work, when you walk into that station, you've committed to showing up for the community. And hey, can you take care of yourself while you're on duty? Yes, but you were at the beck and call of the service or Mrs. Smith calling. So where you have to really hone it in is when it is you time. And you have
Exactly.
to, right? If you don't, your cup is going to become empty. You're going to be in a place like I was, and you're going to be like, how did I get here? And that starts affecting other areas of your life, like it did for me. So self-care is not, I should do that. As a first responder, it's your duty to take care of yourself.
That's a good way to sum it up there. Yeah.
It's your duty.
Yeah. Beautiful. Brother, it's been an honor.
Yeah.
Your wealth of knowledge. And I appreciate the very important work that you're doing for responders across North America and maybe the world even. How can people learn more about who Allan is and your company, Third Alarm? And where can they find out more information about you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can go to thirdalarmcoaching.com. That's my website. I'm in this process right now of improving it and adding some more services to it where people can do some work on your own type stuff. But also through Facebook, you can just search my name. I also have our first responders wellness community on Facebook. That's got roughly 4,000 first responders from all around the world. In there, I provide weekly challenges, healthy food recipes each week. I'll throw in the odd, workout circuit in there. But it's just a community of just overall wellness, right? Breathing techniques, all of those things, good, healthy, whole foods, free recipes. So it's a great community. And if you're wanting to work with me personally, right now you can just reach out to me. Send me a message at allan@thirdalarmcoaching.com or reach out to me through Facebook. But yeah, I'm in the works and building some new stuff to be able to bring to the first responder community. And that's focusing on a lot of what we talked about today and moving forward. So it's this back half of the year's project. So
Fantastic. All that information will be in the show notes as well, so people can definitely click through there as well. So, brother, it's been an honor. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Really appreciate it. You're definitely going to make a difference in our viewers and our listeners today. So thank you.
thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be here, brother. And you keep doing amazing work as well. Like I watch your journey, your story. It's amazing. And we need more of this. So keep up the good work yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I truly feel that being vulnerable, open, and honest with our brothers and sisters is the only way we're going to move forward. So the work that you and I are doing is that, right? Too many people talk about suicide and burnout, mental health challenges, and being overweight or whatever. That's kind of a hush hush, right? So if we can open that door and make it safe for people to talk about, it's progress.
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right, everyone. Appreciate listening today and stay well.
Stay healthy.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.